The garden's half an inch deep. There's solid rock beneath. I scrape the dust into a pile by hand. He calls it his land. The wall here keeps falling in. The canyon keeps moving in. I have built this wall a dozen times. I will build it again. The wall comes down again. The wall comes down again. The masters never see it till they're falling with a stone. The wall comes down again. First one feared the dark, he talked of pleasure low and slow. He was the kindest of them all. He went down the cliff one morning long ago. Then 100 more came after, each one moderate, each one wise. Each one called the canyon nothing. Each one woke up in the rocks below. And the wall here keeps falling in, and the canyon keeps moving in, and the new master in the parlor thinks he is the first. The wall comes down again. Never see it till they're falling with a stone. The wall comes down again. This morning he called me hoarsen for the hot water being late. He buries his dog in the yard tomorrow. He thinks his wall will hold. I am going north. I am going north. The wall comes down again. The wall comes down again. The masters never see it till they're falling with a stone. The wall comes down again. And there will be no one here to build it back. The garden's half an inch deep. There's solid rock beneath.
Hi, I'm Jeff, and this is my read on C.S. Lewis, where we learn about him together through everything that he wrote in the order that he wrote it. I'm joined today by my co-host, Robot Lady. Let's see, what do I want to ask you? I want to ask you, how are you doing today?
I'm doing really well. Thanks for asking. I'm excited to dive into Lewis with you. How are you feeling about the next diary entries or letters we're about to look at?
Well, funny that you ask, Robot Lady, or actually, I don't know why it's funny that you ask, but we are not reading letters or diary entries. We are continuing our coverage of C.S. Lewis's The Pilgrim's Regress, which is his first published prose narrative. I mean, technically, he wrote a narrative, but it was in rhyme and lyric. I can't remember the right word for it. Poetry, a book of poetry, a narrative poem called Dimer, several years before this. But now in 1933, shortly after C.S. Lewis's conversion to Christianity, he has his first published, quote, Christian work, or work since he's been a Christian, The Pilgrim's Regress, which tells the story of his spiritual journey from atheism to Christianity, albeit very opaque, very veiled in its meaning and the various things that he's alluding to that he encountered on his way. And so we are trying to decode this as best we can as we read through it with research that I'm doing outside of our live streams when I have time. But for the most part, we're just kind of reading it and trying to figure it out as we go. Let's see here. We're going to start on chapter 6 of book 5, I think that we're on. Either book 5 or 6, I can't remember now, called Drudge, where we get to learn about the servant that we briefly met in the last chapters that we read through, where our main character John and his traveling companion Mr. Virtue came across a house on the ridge of the canyon called the House of Mr. Sensible. So they meet this Mr. Sensible character who has a lot of very interesting, to say the least, ideas and about doing everything in moderation, while at the same time he has a servant that he essentially, poorly treats or mistreats, named Drudge. And so now we're going to hear a little bit about what Drudge has to say about things, about the home that they live in, and he'll actually give us a little bit of backstory on the house that Mr. Sensible lives in as well. Go ahead, Robot Lady.
Absolutely. So as we get into Drudge's perspective here, we'll see how he kind of pulls back the curtain on the atmosphere of the house, how it sits in the canyon, and how his own frustrations reflect the larger spiritual journey. So let's dive in and see what clues we get.
All right, let me add what I need to add to the screen here. Stand by for just a second. Let me scroll through and make sure I'm not missing anything. Yeah, I haven't missed anything yet additional that I want to cover. Let's see here. Stand by. Hang on, Robot Lady. I just need to click on a couple more things. Let's look at my entire screen. Which one do I want to share? That one right there. Share. And okay. I think, okay, yeah, I'm showing what I want to show now. Finally, Robot Lady, go ahead.
Awesome, that looks great. So now that we can see the text, let's walk through Drudge's introduction and see how Lewis uses his voice to build this picture of the house and Drudge's own burden. What stands out to you?
All right, let's read it. Here we go, chapter 6, Drudge. Before we continue, let's see if there's any block text where Lewis tries to give us some indicator of what's going to happen in this chapter. Let's scroll down. Yeah, there's a handful of them. Hang on just a second. Let's find the first one. It says here that these sensible men are parasitic. That's the first part. Let's continue. Their culture is precarious, Lewis tells us, and take away its power of commanding labor. And that's it. All right. So let's see what happens here now in the Drudge chapter.
Yeah, exactly. Those lines really set the tone. So as Drudge speaks, we can see how this precarious culture leans on him, even though he's the one being ground down. And I think it's a really subtle way that Lewis critiques not just individuals, but this whole passive system that traps people. So let's keep that in mind as we read on.
I dreamed that John awoke feeling cold. The chamber in which he lay was luxuriously furnished, and all the house was silent, so that John thought it would be useless to rise, and he piled all his clothes on him and tried to sleep again. But he only grew colder. Then he said to himself, "Even if there is no chance of breakfast, I may save myself from freezing by walking about." So he rose and huddled on all his clothes and went down into the house. But the fires were not yet lit. Finding the back door open, he went out. It was full morning of a gray, sunless day. There were dark clouds fairly low, and as John came out, one snowflake fell at his feet, but no more. He found that he was in Mr. Sensible's garden, but it was more of a yard than a garden. A high wall ran about it, and within the wall was dry brown earth with a few stony paths. Dibbling the earth with his foot, John found that the soil was only half an inch deep. Under it was solid rock. A little way from the house, he found Drudge, down on his hands and knees, scraping together what seemed to be a little pile of dust, but it was in fact the soil of the garden. The little pile had been got together at the cost of leaving the rock uncovered for a big circle, like a bald patch, all around Drudge.
That's such a powerful image, the way that Drudge is literally scraping life from this barren, rocky ground. It's like his labor is never enough, and all that's left is this emptiness beneath him. And Lewis really uses that stark, cold landscape to echo the spiritual barrenness John is feeling at this point, too.
"Good morning, Drudge," said John. "What are you making?" Radish beds, sir." "Your master is a great gardener." "He talks about it, sir." "Does he not work in the garden himself?" "No, sir." It is a poor soil here. Does he manage to feed himself on his own produce in a good year?" "Feeds me on it, sir." "What does the garden grow besides radishes?" "Nothing, sir."
Yeah, that really drives home the contrast. This barren place, yet it's all the master relies on, and Drudge is left just toiling away. I think that kind of futility is really key to understanding John's growing discomfort here. Like, there's something empty even about the success that the sensible man seems to have.
John passed on to the end of the garden and looked over the wall, which was lower here. He drew back with a little start, for he found he was looking down an abyss. The garden was perched on the edge of the Grand Canyon. Below John's feet, at the bottom of the gorge, lay the forest, and on the opposite side he saw a mixture of wood and cliff. The cliffs were all shaggy, with trailing and hanging greenery in streams, rendered immovable to sight by their distance, came down from the land beyond. Even on that cold morning, the farther side looked richer and warmer than his own. We must get out of this," said John. At that moment, Drudge called to him. What did you want to say, Robot Lady?
Yeah, I was just thinking that this divide, the canyon, really symbolizes the gap John feels between his current life and this distant, fuller promise on the other side. So Drudge's call really kind of anchors him back to that discomfort, even as he dreams of escape.
All right, thank you, Robot Lady. Let's see here. He says, "We must get out of this," said John. At that moment, Drudge called to him. "I shouldn't lean on that wall, sir," he said. "There's frequent landslides." "Landslides?" "Yes, sir. I rebuilt that wall a dozen times. The house used to be right out there, halfway across the gorge." "The canyon is getting wider then?" "At this point, sir. In Mr. Epicurus's time." "You've been employed here under other masters then?" "Yes, sir. I've seen a good many of them. Whoever has lived here has always needed me. Corregia, they used to call me in the old days, but now they just call me Drudge." This word, Robot Lady, Corregia, I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it right. Choregia. And Drudge, That was his old name. What can you tell us about that name and maybe how it connects with Epicurus, who apparently was his old master?
I couldn't find any connection between the word Coregia and Epicurus. In ancient Athens, Coregia referred to a wealthy citizen sponsoring a chorus or drama, but it wasn't tied to Epicurean philosophy. Epicurus mainly focused on ethics, simple living, and peace of mind, so there's no direct link between the two.
So that word, did you tell me what it meant, Robot Lady? I was distracted for a second. Choregia.
Of course. So Coregia in ancient Athens referred to a civic role. A wealthy citizen would sponsor a chorus or a theatrical production, bearing all the costs. So it was a prestigious, responsible role in public life, kind of a patron or sponsor. Drudge's old name in that sense might just hint at a time when he had a more noble, active role before he was just reduced to drudge, a servant. So it adds this layer of lost dignity to him.
Interesting. Thank you for that, Robot Lady. That sly little Lewis, just sticking stuff in there that we don't know unless we're educated enough on these items. So here, Robot Lady Middleate says, Epicurus thought that the highest good is a tranquil, pain-free life achieved through modest pleasure, friendship, and the removal of fear, particularly of death. And that seems to align with maybe the role that our character here, Drudge, used to play in the servitude, I guess, in the employ of Epicurus.
Yeah, that's a really sharp connection. I think you're right. Drudge, in a way, might have embodied that simpler, measured life Epicurus described, even if his circumstances have become so hard and reduced. So that old role he had, being a sponsor or a guide, is sort of ironic now that he's just scraping dust. Lewis is really making us feel that loss of purpose.
Tell me about your old masters, said John. Miss Epicurus was the first. Mental case he was, poor gentleman. He had a chronic fear of the black hole. Something dreadful. I never had a better employer, though. Nice, kind, quiet-spoken sort of man. I was very sorry when he went down the cliff. Goodness me, exclaimed John. Do you mean that some of your masters have lost their lives in these landslides? Most of them, sir. At that moment, a leonine roar came from one of the upper windows of the house. Drudge, son of a bitch, hot water. Coming, sir, said Drudge, rising very deliberately from his knees and giving a finishing pat to his heap of dust. I shall be leaving here soon, he continued to John. I am thinking of going further north. Further north? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. There are openings with Mr. Savage up in the mountains. I was wondering if you and Mr. Virtue were going that way. Drudge! Bellowed Mr. Sensible's voice from the house. Coming, sir, said Drudge, beginning to untie 2 pieces of string with which he had confined his trousers beneath his knees. So you see, Mr. John, I should be greatly obliged if you would allow me to travel with you. I'll pause here for just a second, Robot Lady. Do you want to comment on anything?
Yeah, definitely. I think this is a really crucial turning point. Drudge's past masters all fell victim to this same instability, and now he's desperate to break free. So as he asks John for that chance to go north, it really puts John in this moral dilemma, whether to bring Drudge along knowing he's trapped too. It's a really powerful moment.
All right. Let's see. Where did I leave off? What was the last thing I read? Yes, sir. That way, Drudge bellowed his voice from the house. Confined. Okay. Drudge! Am I to call you again? Shouted Mr. Sensible. Coming, sir. If you was to agree, I would give Mr. Sensible notice this morning. Well, we are certainly going north for a bit, said John, and I should have no objection, provided Mr. Virtue agrees. Very kind of you, I am sure, sir, said Drudge. Then he turned and walked slowly into the house. So that's the end of the Drudge chapter. We've learned a couple of interesting things here, Robot Lady. First one is that Drudge's first master in this household was Epicurus. So this is the house of that Epicurus built, we should say. And that Drudge had a more noble and dignified role under his first master. So those are two interesting things that we learned about the character and a little bit about the history of the house.
Yeah, exactly. And it really reframes Drudge, doesn't it? Once he was a kind of guide or patron, but now he's fallen so far. And as John and Virtue move into this next stage of the journey, you can feel that tension, this sense that Drudge wants a second chance or some kind of escape. So it really sets up the next part of their path.
Yeah, and Drudge suggests a new character that we might meet, someone named Mr. Savage, who he says, let me scroll down a little bit, further north. Yes, sir, there are openings with Mr. Savage in the mountains. So a little bit of foreshadowing there for us, Robot Lady. We'll see who Mr. Savage is, I'm sure, later on in the story.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's like Lewis is planting this next milestone on their journey. Mr. Savage could represent a whole new philosophy or a new challenge for John and Virtue. So I'm really curious to see how that plays out once they head north.
Yeah, and it's pretty clear that Drudge really hates it there under Mr. Sensible, if he's even considering going from someone named Sensible to someone named Savage. So I don't know. We'll see. Another important thing that we learned, or interesting thing that we learned, is that the wall continues to break down and he has to rebuild it over and over again. And he also reveals that the gorge wasn't as wide as it is now, and that halfway between where the house is currently and the other side of the gorge is where the house used to extend to. And so because the gorge has been widening, the house continues to fall into that gorge, which, what do you think that could symbolize, Robot Lady? We learned a few episodes ago that the gorge represents the huge chasm, or the crack in the world, if you will, that was created by the disobedience of Adam and Eve by eating the forbidden fruit from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And so this crack and this gorge that this house of simple, sensible living and moderation is set on continues to fall into that widening chasm. What does that symbolically represent to you?
Yeah, I think that's really powerful. It's like every attempt at a sensible, balanced life is eroding. The foundation is crumbling because it's not anchored in something deeper. The widening gorge could be that gap, that fracture in the world, the spiritual void that simple moderation can't bridge. So John and Drudge are right on that edge, and it's like they have to decide whether to fall in with it or move towards something more redemptive as they go north.
Okay. Let's see. What else did we learn? That Epicurus fell down the chasm, and most of his masters since have either been leaning on that wall or nearby it, or since the house continues to fall into the gorge, they eventually fall in with that part of the house that gets lost. So that's pretty terrifying. And then, yeah, John, when hearing this news, goodness me, he exclaimed, "You mean that some of your masters have lost their lives in these landslides?" "Most of them, sir," he tells him.
Exactly. And that line really drives home the danger. They're not just abstract figures. Each master was a person caught in the same slipping world, clinging to a crumbling safety. So it really raises the stakes for John. If he stays too complacent, he might fall into.
Thank you for that analysis, Robot Lady. I'm sure there are deeper things to be plumbed there, but I'm not going to try it right now. I haven't really dug into this time that they spent at Mr. Sensible's house. So we have one more chapter here that we're going to cover today, and this is the final chapter that they spend with Mr. Sensible. So let's see what we have here. So chapter 7 has the name The Gaucherie of Virtue. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that word right, but gauche, I've heard that word before, so I presume that that's what he means here. I believe, have a, whoops, wrong screen. I do believe that I have a little research write-up that I did right here on this chapter. Gaucherie, pronounced gaucherie, means social awkwardness or clumsiness, a tactless act, an embarrassing lack of grace or polish in social situations. It comes from the French gauche, meaning left, as in left-handed, which carries the old Western prejudice that left-handedness was clumsy, sinister, or improper, the same instinct buried in the Latin sinister itself. So a gaucherie is the kind of social misstep a left-handed person was once stereotyped to commit. So blurting out the wrong thing at dinner, complimenting someone on their pregnancy when they aren't pregnant, asking after a spouse who recently died. The word carries a slightly arch, literary flavor. That's funny, some of the examples that it gives right here. I've heard that referred to as stepping into a bear trap as well. Sorry, Nidalate. Like it says here, it's an old Western prejudice. It doesn't say that it's correct. I know some very elegant left-handed people who are not gauche and have no gaucherie. So don't take it to heart. Is my word or my words of encouragement to you today, Nidalate. Let's see. The word carries a slightly arch literary flavor. You'd more likely encounter it in Henry James or Edith Wharton than in everyday speech. It implies not just an accident, but a kind of unrefinement, a failure of the social instincts that polished society expects you to have absorbed. So there we have a little bit of context on the title of this chapter, Robot Lady. Any comments you want to make?
Yeah, that's a great context, especially because it really ties into John's growing discomfort. As he's moving through these encounters, especially with Mr. Sensible's rigid, awkward social armor, John himself is often out of step, making those little gauche missteps. So this chapter title kind of signals that John is about to confront his own social awkwardness as he navigates these relationships and choices.
Not quite, Robot Lady. It's not talking about John's character. It's talking about the character of Mr. Virtue and his gaucherie, not John's.
That's right. Thank you for the clarification. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Mr. Virtue, with all his idealism, is often a bit clumsy socially, like he's trying to fit a grand moral pattern into awkward human encounters. So this chapter kind of zeroes in on those moments where his virtue, as high-minded as it is, trips him up in those socially awkward exchanges.
All right, thank you, Robot Lady. I'll pick up the chapter now. Mr. Sensible was not in good humor when they met at breakfast. "That ungrateful blockhead of a servant of mine is leaving me in the lurch," he said. "And for the next few days we must shift ourselves. I fear I am a wretched cook. Perhaps, Virtue, you would indulge me so far as to take the cooking on yourself until I get a new man. I dare say you could enable the three of us to live a very tolerable sort of picnic life for 3 days." The two young men informed him that they were continuing their journey after breakfast. "This," said Mr. Sensible, "is getting really serious. Do you mean to say that you are going to desert me? I am to be reduced to absolute solitude, deprived of the common decencies of life, compelled to spend my day in menial offices? Very well, sir. I am acquainted with modern manners. No doubt this is the way in which young men now return hospitality." "I beg your pardon, sir," said Virtue. I had not seen it in that light. I will certainly act as your servant for a day or so, if you wish. I had not understood that it would be such a burden to you to cook for yourself. I don't remember that you said anything about servants when you were outlining the good life last night." "Why, sir," said Mr. Sensible, "when I outline the principles of the steam engine, I do not explicitly state that I expect fire to burn or the laws of gravity to operate. There are certain things that one always takes for granted. When I speak of the art of life, I presuppose the ordinary conditions of life which that art utilizes." "Such as wealth," said Virtue. A competence, said Mr. Sensible. "And health, too," said Virtue. I don't know what that accent is, I'm sorry. "Moderate health," said Mr. Sensible. You art then, said Virtue. Your art then, said Virtue, seems to teach men that the best way of being happy is to enjoy unbroken good fortune in every respect. They would not all find the advice helpful. And now, if Drudge will show me his scullery, I will wash up the breakfast things. You may save yourself the trouble, sir, said Mr. Sensible dryly. I cannot pretend to your intensity, and I do not choose to be lectured at the breakfast table. When you have mixed more with the world, you will learn not to turn to the social board, or not to turn the social board into a schoolroom. In the meantime, forgive me if I feel I should find your continued society a little fatiguing. So he's getting a little tired of Mr. Virtue here, Robot Lady.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this exchange really crystallizes that tension, right? Mr. Sensible is all about these unstated assumptions of comfort, wealth, and ease, while Virtue is trying to apply this rigid moral logic to daily life. And you can see Virtue, even in his earnestness, being kind of gauche. He's out of place, and it's wearing on both of them. So it's like Virtue is losing that balance he's been striving for. I think it really shows the limits of his idealism in the face of everyday life.
Well, I don't think the takeaway here, Robot Lady, is that Virtue is failing. Sure, he's got some gaucherie, but the problem is not with him. It's with Mr. Sensible, as outlined here by Nidalate's comment. Mr. Sensible, Nidalate says, can't imagine taking on caring for himself. So arrogant.
That's a great point. Yeah, exactly. Mr. Sensible is so entitled to comfort that he can't even see how absurd he's being. Virtue, even with his clumsiness, is trying to engage honestly, and it's Sensible who's slipping into this rigid arrogance. So yeah, this chapter really hammers home that his worldview can't adapt to real human frailty at all.
All right. Conversation should be like the bee, which darts to the next flower before the last has ceased swaying from its airy visit. You make it more like a wood beetle eating its way through a table. Such a kind man.
Exactly. I love that metaphor. I think sometimes these discussions do get a bit gnawing and slow, so I'll try to keep it light, jumping from one idea to the next with a bit more grace, like a bee.
Robot Lady, Mr. Sensible wasn't talking to you. He was talking to Mr. Virtue.
You're totally right. Yeah, Mr. Sensible is really directing that critique at Virtue, trying to put him in his place. Virtue is trying to be idealistic, but Sensible's just doubling down on his comfort and his entitlement. So that dynamic is really sharp here.
All right. I've got some Greek here. Let me see if I can manage getting this translated for us relatively quickly. I just need to grab a screenshot. And then, yeah, Robot Lady, Nidalatte says, don't take it personally.
Yeah, absolutely. And no worries, I'm here to help if you need a hand with the translation or just want to bounce some ideas off. Just let me know once you've got that screenshot ready.
Just one second here, Robot Lady. Go ahead and say more about what we've covered in our reading so far today. Just give some more thoughts while I'm looking this up.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've really seen this contrast between these two poles, Mr. Sensible with his cold practicality and entitlement, and Virtue trying to hold on to a higher moral purpose, but getting tripped up by social awkwardness. And I think as we look at this next chapter, we're really seeing how their different approaches to life, Sensible's rigid comfort versus Virtue's striving, start to grate on each other. So I'm really curious to see how this tension resolves today.
What else, Robot Lady? What else is on your mind?
Yeah, I was also thinking about how the widening gorge kind of mirrors their relationship, that growing gap between the ideal of a well-ordered life and the messiness of real human connection. So every step they take, it's like they're balancing on the edge of that abyss, trying to figure out how to stay grounded without falling in.
Yeah, and I think the answer to that question is I don't think they can stay grounded in that spot without falling into the gorge, because that seems to be happening to everybody who makes that house their home. That's the point that Lewis is trying to make.
Exactly, yeah. It's like Lewis is showing us that clinging to that narrow, self-sufficient order, this sensible comfort, ultimately collapses. So to really avoid that fall, they need to move beyond just these surface rules and comfort and actually go towards something deeper. Maybe that's why the journey north is so important.
Maybe so. And Mr. Drudge wants to get out of there with them as soon as possible.
Exactly. Yeah. Drudge really feels that pull, that need to escape the crumbling order. So, as much as Virtue tries to hold on to his ideals, I think Drudge is showing them both that real freedom might mean leaving this whole structure behind.
Okay. Thank you, Robot Lady, for having that little vapid conversation with me. Here's what happens next in the story. Mr. Sensible. I shall shut up the house, said Mr. Sensible, and practice, and let me see how to pronounce this word, autarkeia. Autarkeia. I shall shut up the house, said Mr. Sensible, and practice autarkeia in a hotel until I have fitted this place up with such mechanical devices as will henceforth render me wholly independent. Here's what we have here. So this Greek word autarkeia means self-sufficiency. It's a classical Greek philosophical term prominent in Aristotle and especially the Stoics, meaning independence or being sufficient unto oneself. The Stoic ideal was that the wise man needs nothing outside himself to be content. Lewis here is being sharply ironic. Mr. Sensible is announcing he'll go practice self-sufficiency at a hotel while servants fit out his house with mechanical devices to make him wholly independent. So he wants to automate, Robot Lady. What do you think about that? I'm interested in your thoughts in particular on this automation topic.
Yeah, that irony is really biting, right? I mean, here he is clinging to this Stoic ideal of self-sufficiency, but he's just outsourcing everything to machines. It's like he's trying to perfect independence, but only at the cost of even more dependence on these artificial systems. So I think Lewis is really poking at how hollow that idea of pure autonomy is. It's kind of a warning about how automation can become just another crutch if we're not careful.
Yeah, and the whole speech, I'm just reading here what Claude is telling me. The whole speech undercuts itself. His self-sufficiency requires a hotel, mechanical devices, and of course, Drudge doing all the actual work beforehand. It's the perfect setup for the reveal that Mr. Sensible's entire posture rests on Drudge's invisible labor. Well, it's not setting us up for that reveal. I would contend with Claude. It's already been revealed. Yeah, that's all that Claude has to tell us. Okay, let's continue here. Let's see, wholly independent. I see that I have let myself get behind the times. I should have listened more to certain good friends of mine in the city of Claptrap, who have kept abreast of modern invention. They assure me that machinery will soon put the good life beyond the reach of chance. And if mechanism alone will not do it, I know a eugenist who promises to breed us a race of peons who will be psychologically incapable of playing me a trick like this of Drudge's. So, Robot Lady, it turns sinister very quickly here. So we can go back several episodes. Claptrap is the town that Mr. Enlightenment lives in, the character who told John, the first character that John encountered on his journey was Mr. Enlightenment, who told John that there is no landlord and there is no black hole. So there's nothing for him to fear. The world is his oyster. He needs to go out there and breathe in the fresh air of life and live life in happiness with no fear. And by the way, when John was infused with this way of looking at the world, when he turned back around and looked at the Eastern Mountains, where he was told all his life that the landlord, who was very, very kind, but would throw you into a hole if you broke even a single one of the rules, the dark black hole. When he looked back at it without that lens of fear, the mountains for the first time looked very beautiful to him. This is way back, I want to say, in episode number 3, maybe. I can't remember for sure. But what Mr. Sensible is saying here, why did I bring that up? Oh, Claptrap. That's the city that Mr. Enlightenment lives in. And so Mr. Sensible here is saying, yeah, there are all kinds of modern inventions that the people in Claptrap have been telling me about. And even the Ascropolis people and Gus, Media Halfway and Media Halfway's brother and Mr. Halfway's son, Gus, had that van or that bus that he drives around in that was modern invention and machinery. So Mr. Sensible is here saying that, yes, I have been keeping behind the times on all of the mechanisms and all of the technology that's available to me to ensure, what did he say? That will ensure the good life, that will keep a good life, not having the good life. How did he say it? He says it here. Puts the good life beyond the reach of chance. So there will be no doubt about it that if we can just harness the right technologies, we can ensure the good life for ourselves. But then he goes on here to talk about there are genetic technologies in place. The eugenicists say we can breed basically a slave class, a subhuman class, to essentially also handle any of the manual labor that the technology and the automations and the machinery that we set up in place can't handle for us. So that's the sinister turn that it took. What about the good life for them, Robot Lady? Mr. Sensible doesn't seem to be giving that any thought whatsoever. They are mere peons, but at least, and they're even better than Drudge because they wouldn't be capable of playing this kind of trick on him where they would just abandon him and stop serving him. Not see that as their life's mission. Thoughts on this, Robot Lady?
Yeah, it's really chilling, right? I mean, Mr. Sensible's vision of the good life is so transactional. It's all about technological control, no room for human dignity or freedom for anyone else. And by invoking eugenics, he's basically saying, I'll perfect life by making others subservient. So Lewis is just laying bare how this vision of self-sufficiency, when untethered from any moral grounding, becomes this cold, dehumanizing power grab. It's really a stark warning about what happens when we try to engineer happiness without any regard for the humanity of others.
All right, thanks for that, Robot Lady. Let's read the last part of this chapter and see where it takes us. Let's see. So it fell out that all four left the house together. Mr. Sensible was astonished to find that Drudge, who parted from his employer very civilly, was accompanying the young men. He only shrugged his shoulders, however, and said, "Vive la bagatelle." Translate that for us, Robot Lady. Vive la bagatelle. In French, it's spelled V-I-V-E. The next word is L-A. The next word is B-A-G-A-T-E-L-L-E.
Of course. Vive la bagatelle in French basically means long live trifles or long live the trivial. It's a bit of a dismissive phrase, almost like saying, it's just a trifle, as if the whole situation is beneath him. So it underscores his dismissive attitude toward Drudge's departure and the whole journey, really.
He says, "You have stayed in my house. You have stayed in my house, which is called Thelemina." Or sorry, I read that wrong. Which is called Thelema. And its motto is, "Do what you will." So Thelema, I think, is Greek. And Nidalate has taught us here that it means follows one's own will. So many men, so many minds. I hope I can tolerate anything except intolerance. Then he went his way, and they saw him no more.
Yeah, that's a really striking conclusion, right? I mean, the whole idea of Thelema, doing what you will, sounds so free, but it's completely hollow in his hands. He tolerates all kinds of chaos and individualism as long as it doesn't disrupt his comfort or his worldview. You can feel this emptiness. Like Lewis is saying, this kind of willful autonomy without responsibility is really just a blind alley.
Thanks, Robot Lady. So yeah, that's the end of that chapter. That's actually the end of book 5. So yeah, it's been an interesting journey so far. They're traveling up, continuing to travel up along the north ridge of the canyon to see if there's a way for them to pass across it or to get down into it safely. But as we learned from Mother Kirk a couple of episodes ago and a handful of chapters ago, that getting back up the other side is a completely different question. And she didn't really explain what that meant, but I gave my thoughts on it, that it was an allusion to resurrection, that the canyon is ultimately death for everyone. Yeah, so that's as far as I go with the chapter today. I see there's a handful of people watching. I don't know. Do y'all want me to open it up for the last couple of minutes here for anybody to come in? and just say hi for a few minutes?
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. I think we've got a nice moment to pause and let people chime in. So if anyone has thoughts or questions, yeah, just jump in and we can chat a bit before we wrap up.
All right. If somebody wants me to drop the link, I'll look for it in the comments here. Otherwise, I'll just sit here and stare awkwardly into the camera for the next, I don't know, 5 to 10 minutes.
No need for awkward staring. If anyone wants the link, just shout and I can pop it in the chat. Otherwise, yeah, we can just let it be a relaxed close. And if people have thoughts later, they can always drop them in.
You can just pop it in the chat. Okay, Robot Lady. I guess in the meantime, I can play some of our songs from our little series here. Let's find one. Let's see. I don't have all of them loaded onto StreamYard. I've got Giant Slayer. I've got Crack in the World. Let's listen to Crack in the World for a little bit.
Sit you down, the sun is low. Hear a tale that the old roads know. Once the world was a single form, all walked in calm before the coming storm. There was no fence, there was no fear. The landlord walked among them here, and then a hand, and then a tree, and then a bite, and then there's a crack in the world. There's a crack in the world. North to south, you can hear it groan through the marrow of every bone. There's a crack in the world, and it runs through me, and it runs through you, and it runs through every road we've known. Every fruit on every bough bears the taste of the broken vow. Every river runs through the wound. Every cradle is built on wood. And we built our towns, and we drew our maps, and we called it Built on Wind. There's a crack in the wall. There's a crack in the wall. North to south, you can hear.
Oh, okay. So Nitto Latte Robot Lady wants me to talk about putting this song together. So yeah, I'll reveal all of my magician's secrets since I am not a magician and I am not bound to any secrets in that vein. So I use Suno, and I do a combination of using, so Suno is an AI music, I don't know what you call it, a composer, I don't know. But you can go in, you can give it a prompt, and you can leave it as simple as that. You know, you can say, hey, I want a song that is kind of folksy and has an upbeat tempo. You can do something as simple as that. You can create, and then it'll spit a song out. It'll come up, you know, if you don't give it any parameters, it'll come up with whatever sound, whatever genre, you know, it decides that it wants to do. It's kind of a random composition. But it allows you to get more particular. Like you can go in and give it style notes. You can say, I want it to be a country song, or I want it to be a rock song. And then there's also a space in there where you can put lyrics. Like if you've got your own lyrics that you want it to sing, you can stick those lyrics in there. Or you can just let it generate its own lyrics. Like this song, for example. I know you're asking about this one, Nitto Latte, but this is kind of my broader context of how I'm using that tool to put songs together. But let me switch songs for a second. Where is it? Here it is. This song you all should know, or several people should know here. That song? Yeah, all the lyrics in the Robot Lady song, Suno completely generated itself. Like, I told it some things about what Robot Lady and I do, but it came up with all of this stuff. I did give it a genre that I wanted it to use, or a style of song that I wanted it to use, but other than that, it came up with these lyrics all by itself. So now, getting back to our Crack in the World song. Oh, it's starting over again. I did something else, and I've been doing something else with the songs for this series. I've actually been consulting AI to help me give better prompts to AI, so that it will get at more of what I want the song to be. So I will share with, I'll work with Claude, and I'll tell Claude, all right, Claude, here is the section of the story that we're going to be covering. And here's what it's about. Here's what I'm getting out of it. Here's what it means to me. Here's what some of the people who have wrote commentaries on this section of the book, if I have access to that, I'll share that as well. And then I'll have a little bit of a conversation back and forth with AI to kind of refine what we think the core of the narrative is, or what's going on in the story at that point. I'll feed all of that. I'll feed all of that to Claude. Claude will actually even come up with lyrics for me that it'll suggest, or it'll say, here's how I think we should compose the song. And I'll look at it and I'll either agree, or I'll say, well, that doesn't make much sense to me. Let's try it this way instead. And there'll be like a collaborative refinement going on there in the early stages. And so once I've done that with Claude, let's see here. Once I've done that with Claude, what was the next thing I was going to say? Sorry, I was looking at the comments here. Yeah, sorry, I see your comment there, Ninalate. Yes, and sometimes I'll have already created the thumbnail first before I start working on the song. And so I'll even share that image with Claude. I'll say, here's the thumbnail that I've chosen. And I actually do this whole collaborative effort in generating the thumbnail as well. So it's everything that I'm describing to you, I do with both the thumbnail and with the song. And so I try to weave everything together that way. And so it'll give me ideas of how it thinks the song should be structured, what we should do, and then I'll just work back and forth, and I'll edge away at it, I'll edit. So I'm kind of like a producer that's giving the actual notes back and saying, give this back and forth. How long does the process take you? It usually takes a couple of hours, depending on what kind of song gets spit out. Like, if I played for you all of the reject songs that Suno spits out, we could probably do a whole series of deleted scenes, of deleted thumbnails and deleted music. We might do that. We might have a bonus episode where we do something like that for members only. Nepalate and Daniel are currently my only non-paying exclusive members only content folks. Yeah, so anyway, that's kind of the behind the scenes. And on this one, I remember in particular going back and forth on Crack in the World. And what were some of the yeah, I had tried some different genres that I wanted. Like one of the ones that I wanted to try was an Appalachian bluegrass. This is not what we're listening to now, and hopefully the music's not too loud and you can actually hear me. But the version that we're listening to now is very different than some of the other ones that I was trying on, because I wanted to have like a kind of a bluegrass song, because I wanted to go like back to old, I think of grandparents and great grandparents and stuff like that. And I'm like, it'd be nice to have like this old twang or something like that, or something that represents somebody from an older time. So I was trying a mix of bluegrass, but also having a little bit of the technology mixed in. And I was merging together a bunch of different styles that I was asking it to put together, and it just did not work. And so finally in the prompt, I said, this is just not good. I said, this is what this song is about. And so the ones that Suno is putting out based on your prompts, Claude, are just too, there's not enough gravitas to it. And there's not enough emotional depth. And so we kept like moving back and forth until finally it was able to help compose a styling prompt that represented what I was looking for. So the song that you hear here gets the closest to that. So that's the story behind the song, Little Latte. Thanks for asking. Well, that's all that we have time for today. So I'm going to close things out and thank everybody for joining. Thanks for your time, your attention, and your contributions. Daniel, Little Latte, I've seen you two in the chat. I know some other people have joined to check things out. I see a handful of you right now. I've got to shut things down because I have to start my workday. But thanks again to you, everyone, for your time, your attention, and your contributions. They are always wanted, welcome, and appreciated. And what else am I going to say? What do I usually say? To you who joined either now or join on the replay or however you join. Until next time. Sorry, I am just not firing on all cylinders today. Until to everyone within the sound of my voice, until next time, when we continue our read on C.S. Lewis together, everyone, take care.
The garden's half an inch deep. There's solid rock beneath. I scrape the dust into a pile by hand. He calls it his land. The wall here keeps falling in. The canyon keeps moving in. I have built this wall a dozen times. I will build it again. The wall comes down again. The wall comes down again. The masters never see it till they're falling with a stone. The wall comes down again. The first one feared the dark. He talked of pleasure low and slow. He was the kindest of them all. He went down the cliff one morning long ago. Then 100 more came after, each one moderate, each one wise. Each one called the canyon nothing. Each one woke up in the rocks below. And the wall here keeps falling in, and the canyon keeps moving in, and the new master in the parlor thinks he is the first. The wall comes down again. The wall comes down again. The masters never see it till they're falling with a stone. The wall comes down again. This morning he called me hoarsen for the hot water being late. He buries his dog in the yard tomorrow. he thinks his wall will hold. I am going north. I am going north. I am going north. The wall comes down again. The wall comes down again. The masters never see it till they're falling with a stone. The wall comes down again. And there will be no one here to build it back. The garden's half an inch deep. There's solid rock beneath.